What's going on, everybody? It's Matt with Middle Tennessee Geek coming back at you with another one. Today we're doing something a little different, something I've never done before. We're going to do kind of a comic book review / deep dive because what's come out? Spider-Man 94. Issue 1 came out, I believe, a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. I picked it up last Wednesday, from my local comic store, and really dived into it. And there's a lot in here that I didn't know, characters I didn't know, because for those that's been following me, I just to give more of the backstory again, I grew up in a small town, didn't have a comic store of anything like that, didn't have a toy store other than drove, out of town to, where they had the Walmart. That was your closest toy store. So the only indication of Spider-Man, which I'm a big fan of, was the Spider-Man animated series. I would come home after school every day. It would line up perfectly. I would get off the bus and run right into my room, and it was coming on right in time to watch it. So I'm a big fan of the 90 series. As you can see behind me, I have all the series that's been on, all the figures, so the retro line that's been on the show, of characters that's been on the show. So before we get too far ahead, let's recap. We found out back in June, middle of June, I believe it was June 18th to be specific, that kind of like what X-Men 97 did is on a cartoon, is Spider-Man animated series is coming out with a 4-part comic book series. And it's leading off from where we left off in the animated series, where Spider-Man and Madam Web went off to go find Mary Jane. And this is where it's starting off from. Now, as much as I would love a good series, and hopefully we still can, because there's great material in here that could really open seasons, and I do mean seasons, of the show. So one thing I am going to do is there is characters in here I'm not familiar with, so I had a deep dive, and I'm going to kind of go through that deep dive with you to look into those characters and who they are, because they, again, animated series and video games in the last 15 years, I would say, maybe less, and cartoons and TV shows from the animated series on. That's my exposure to Spider-Man. So anything comic related, comic books, and novels, whatnot, I'm lost. I don't know anything about them. So a lot of these characters, there's 3 characters new to me that's in this book, and they're main villains in here. So without further ado, let's jump in. Okay, so I'm going to kind of just walk through the pages, and as we go, I'll stop and kind of explain what's going on. As we open up, we see webs. You can see kind of like a cocoon with the face coming out, which is come to find out are kind of like our instigator in things. If I'm saying this wrong, Morlun, 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 I believe it's how you would say that. But that is going to be, towards the end, you'll see that's going to be kind of our main bad guy. Now, who is Morlun? Okay, let's look at that. I wasn't familiar with this character. The guy at the comic book store that sold this to me, he's told me this was his favorite villain. So let's stop here and go from there. Morlun, and I'm reading this from Wikipedia, so you can, if I'm wrong, you can blame them, is a supervillain appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. Not going to go on who created. Morlun is a central foe of all themed versions of Spider-Man. Being one of their most powerful and dangerous adversaries, he's an entity from Earth 001 that hunts all the Spider-Totems. Let me pause there. I didn't know what Spider-Totems were. So basically, Spider-Totems, according to Marvel.fandom, which is marvel.fandom.com/wiki, so Marvel Wiki, kind of like a Power Rangers wiki, it's basically a database of information. The term Spider-Totem refers to the class of multiversal supernatural entities created by the elder goddess Neith, Neith. I'm not going to go into that because there's so much deep diving I can do in this. It would be hours making this video. Look into Neith. It's a very interesting story. Linked to the mystical force called the Web of Life and Destiny, the great The Great Weaver, the Gatekeeper, the Bride, the Scion, the Master Weaver, and the Pattern Maker are examples of these deific Spider-Totems, which can choose avatars or manifest independently if needed. So, I related to this, the Spider-Totems, as basically, you've got the web of life and destiny. Think of it, if you're a DC fan, think of it as the Speed Force. And the Speed Force chooses their others to wield their powers. So it's kind of the same thing, but in a different way. Instead of Speed Force, you get spider powers. So just think of it that way. It's the way I could think of it. This is the way it made sense to me. If I'm wrong on that, please correct me in the comments. This is stuff I'm learning, and I would love to learn more because I am definitely a great Spider-Man fan, but I just don't know. There's a lot I don't know. So, and I'm learning. Okay, so going back to finish off here about Morlun. By traveling to the many universes of Marvel Comics, he is best known as the temporary killer of Earth 616, Spider-Man in the storyline The Spider-Man the Other. He's also the main antagonist of the Spider-Verse storyline, in which he and his estranged family, the Inheritors, attempt to kill all the versions of the Spider-Man and prophesied by him. Okay, there's a lot you can deep dive into each part of this. The Inheritors, the Spider-Totems, who created them. It's a very interesting story. I just don't want to spend all the time doing that here, but definitely look into it if you don't know it. Like me, but definitely a great deep dive. Okay, so continuing on, we get this is first page, so we're getting now our look at a character I didn't know what existed, but he actually has a figure out in this retro line, which is Kaine. Okay, now I didn't know who Kaine was. So again, I'm telling you guys, if it wasn't in the show, wasn't in the animated series that came after that, or anything after that, I didn't know about him. So, who is Kaine? For those of you that, like me, that didn't know. And I'm only going to deep dive so much in this. Do your own research if you don't know. I'm going to have to do more on mine end. So, according to Wikipedia, Kaine is the Jackal's first temporary success to clone Peter Parker, but the flawed cloning process left him deformed and mentally unstable. Okay, I have heard of the Jackal before, and it was, I can't remember, it was one of the early 2000s animated series Spider-Man. I want to say Josh Keaton was the voice of that one, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, please correct me in the comments. This is all I'm trying to do from memory. But just to further along, the Jackals discarded Kaine due to him showing early signs of degeneration, which will eventually kill him. Kaine experiences a strong feeling of rejection, similar to that between father and son. Kaine's degeneration, gives him an enhanced version of Peter's powers, including precognitive sense that shows him flashes of the future. So basically, they show it as an amplified version of spider sense. He also possesses a mark of Kaine, a burning touch that he uses to leave eaten away handprints on his victims' faces. Though never explicitly stated within the story, in a later interview, former Spider-Man editor-writer Glenn Greenberg revealed that the mark of Kaine was meant to be another analog of Spider-Man's powers, namely the ability to cling to walls. Okay, and I'm going to keep reading this because this ties into the animated series with one we're familiar with. The Jackal goes on to create a new, better clone who would be known as Ben Reilly, who is the Scarlet Spider, as is the way I know it. When the Jackal uses Reilly against Peter, the ensuing battle leaves Reilly and the Jackal for dead. They both manage to survive. The Jackal places himself into suspended animation in a cloning pod to awaken later and leaves Reilly to New York. So, with that being said, does this mean that this is going to somehow tie into that? We'll see. We'll see how the story. Remember, this is only a 4-part series, so we're going to see where exactly they go with it. Okay, so let's move on. We see Kaine come out of kind of like a smoke trance, almost similar to what Madam Web did. She'd have the webs come around, just kind of engulf Peter, Spider-Man, and before eventually just kind of disappearing. And just kind of starting off saying he's going to find something. Okay, then we go on to the next page. Then we got Chapter 1, The Awakening. And here you see, right, one page, Spider-Man and Mary Jane together, swinging through New York. He says, Mary Jane is back, we're finally together, and nobody is ever going to take her away again. Okay, this is where I say you could really dive in and make extended show animated series of this, because we left off. He's going to go with Madam Web to look for her, and now he's found her, and she knows who he is. He knows she's Spider-Man. Because remember, the clone of Mary Jane is the one who found out that Peter was Spider-Man and all that. Those are the ones that got married. So this, when they found Mary Jane, this would be someone who didn't know Spider-Man was Peter Parker. So there's that big gap of something we could have had there that I wish would have been in here, but I understand for the sake of 4 books that you gotta limit what you can do. So I would have really liked to seen a story arc of him actually finding her and going through everything that's going on. So he says, can you believe it, MJ? Here we are home in New York and at the top of the world. Sometimes, Peter, I really can't believe it all seems so unreal, but then I look into your eyes and I know it's true. Peter Parker, you're a sweet man. I have something to ask you. He goes, anything. Will you marry me? And he gives a huh? And apparently that turns her off, because that wasn't the response she was looking for. And he goes into it. The next page is a wonderful page of, him in the center with memories surrounding in the web pattern. Him getting married, finding out, and all this, and where she originally got lost through the black hole from Green Goblin and found her, and then losing her, the clone. So just all those from the show that was recapped basically in here, and how it's kind of messed with him. Like, he still has those feelings of her because it was Mary Jane, but it was a clone. So I get it. So now he's scared. Basically, he says on the next page, basically scared he's going to lose her again. And I mean, all this happened to him. So, and then toward the end of the page, you can see a lurk in the shadows as he's ticked off Mary Jane. Kaine is watching. Got some inserts. Then we open up on the Sims Foundation building, which kind of looks like the Avengers Tower, if you're asking me. Talking about world hunger, Sims climate controls, not getting into all of that. And so much more from here. You're talking to some man on the TV, and all of a sudden they lose the feed. And they said, hey, did we lose him? We said, no, he just cut us off in the middle of a board meeting, in the middle of a sentence. Well, if one thing we know about things about it, if we know one thing about Ezekiel Sims, that he's unpredictable. Okay, and apparently this is his doppelganger, because he says, I fear my awakening. A conscience has interfered with my AI doppelganger. Okay, so basically you run into a conversation at this point between Kaine and Morlun. He's getting Morlun out of the cocoon. Talking about totems, because he's found the totem, which remember can be bestowed upon spider-like creatures, which is Spider-Man. He said it would be sustain him. This totem's not like the others, and he's unique, and he will provide me with enough energy for another century at least. But he needs something for now, and that's when we find Vermin. You get introduced to Vermin. He's chained up. Vermin, which again is another one I didn't know, so let's pause a minute and read off of Wikipedia. Vermin, whose real name was Edward Whelan, Whelan, is a supervillain appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. The character is usually depicted as an adversary of Captain America and Spider-Man. A geneticist, there we go, working for Baron Zemo and Armin Zola. Edward Whelan was subject to an experiment that mutated him into a humanoid rat, gaining superhuman abilities as well as the predatory instincts of a rat. This character's most notable appearance was in the storyline Craven's Last Hunt. So there we go. That's who Vermin is. And basically, he's just there for food for Morlun. He breaks the chain. He goes after Morlun, and Morlun just says, "You go on the next page." Goes, "Eat you, shriek." He goes, "No, little rat thing. It is. Who shall I eat you?" And it looks like he's just sucking the life force out of him. They don't go into deep detail. You just kind of see energy going around him. On the next page, we go, and we're at Aunt May's house, and you see a knock at the door, which is Mary Jane, who's still furious about what was said last night, and she runs up to Peter's room. Peter's there. He rips the covers off, and he goes, "What is wrong?" She goes, "What is wrong with you? After all we went through to get back here, all the nightmares we faced, the obstacles we overcame, how can you turn your back on me, on us?" And he goes, kind of dives into it. We just back and forth, still in his room. On the next page, basically just kind of relating, everything he's been through and his thought process. Okay, then on the page after that, they go downstairs. Tells Aunt May, "Hey, guess what? We're getting married." And she goes, "Getting married?" And he goes, "Oh, I mean, we are married." Because again, to the world, they are married. They never knew that Mary Jane was a clone that he did marry. So now it's going to be confusing a little bit to the world. So, but then we open up, and this is where it kind of took a turn. Okay, so this is where he kind of veers off. Could be Peter Parker's look finally turned around after all life feels normal again. If normal includes stopping superhuman powered crooks like Molten Man from robbing jewelry stores. So kind of a flashback in his head, and a back and forth a fight between Spider-Man and Molten Man. And we've heard of Molten Man. We've seen him in a version of him in the I'm trying to think, Far From Home movie with Tom Holland. And just a little information on him, because I wasn't familiar with him. I knew Hydro Man from the animated series, but I'd never seen or anything about a Molten Man. So who is this character? His real name is Mark Raxton. He's a fictional character appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. Once a chemical engineer who longed to get rich, Mark Raxton was caught in an accident that saw his body get covered by an experimental organic liquid metal alloy, which granted him super powers, including the ability to generate extreme heat and radiation. Turning to a life of crime, he started off as an enemy of the superhero Spider-Man, but eventually redeemed. He's also the stepbrother of Liz Allen. The character has made appearances in several forms of media, including animated series and video games. Additionally, an illusionary creature based on Molten Man appears in the Marvel Cinematic Universe film Spider-Man Far From Home, as we stated. So that is who Molten Man is, according to Wikipedia. Okay. So, and I'm not going to go into all this. This is just basically a back and forth, and him getting Molten Man down using a fire extinguisher, and then special suits comes in to haul him off where he's contained. But again, it seemed like a memory flashback, but it's actually looks like it's a battle that took place during the day. So we woke up during the morning. During the day, he had this battle, and now after the battle, it's, according to the comic, it's evening time, not time, because it's kind of a dusk time, and you can see in the distance, in the middle of the page, Kaine right there on the building, kind of watching him, and he thinks, he's getting paranoid. Spider-Man thinks he's getting paranoid in his old age, because his spider sense was kind of tingling, but it wasn't, so it wasn't really setting it off. So there is one picture on the bottom. In the middle, it says, "I had to come home to Queens." You see Kaine, but you also see a figure, just a figure outline above him. So I'm not quite sure who that is. All right, then on the following page, we're back home. Mary Jane's Aunt Anna's come over, for dinner. And of course, she just lives next door, and there's a, without going into all the details of reading it, there's just a lot of back and forth because, Aunt Anna does not like Peter and never has, so she's still standing on those grounds. And basically, Mary Jane stands up to her and tells her to get over it. Then we flip over, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, crash through, Kaine breaks in, goes Peter Parker. It's just a full page. You see in the little corner, it says, "No, not here." So when I was reading this, I could just visualize, and his name escapes me at this moment, but the voice who played the animated series goes, "No, not now." Because how many times did we hear that, especially during the mutation phase, because his powers would go out and stuff, and he would have issues. So no, not here. His voice just came to my head when I was reading this. Okay, so he grabs Peter, throws him out, and he basically goes, since you clearly know who I am, there's no need for me holding back. So and it doesn't really show here. He kind of like gets away from him in a point, but then kind of backtracking, and all of a sudden he's in a suit. It's not really clear how that happens, but somehow he pops into a suit, and he's Spider-Man in front of Kaine and while fighting on the roof. It goes, and just goes, "You invaded my home, threatened the people I love. Why?" He goes, "Because it serves my father's cause." Okay, and Peter kind of compliments him. He goes, "Not bad, fella. That actually hurt." Then Kaine goes back with him. "My power astonishes you. Just wait till you meet my father. I am only a shadow, a dim reflection of all he is." He goes, "His name." He goes, "Who sent you?" His name is, as they're going back and forth, Morlun. Okay, then Kaine basically just lays out Spider-Man. The mask is torn. You can see his mouth. He goes, "Pathetic. How can you possibly be the great totem you pose? No real challenge. Is it possible that I've made a mistake that you aren't? You've made a mistake, all right. The moment you came through, crashing through that window, and going a little further, you have no idea what I've been through." And this is important because he's memories of some sort is floating, like with Madam Web. You can see images in the cloud, and it's Mary Jane. Then Kaine's confused. He goes, "What is this I'm seeing, feeling? I can't hear what he's muttering about, but he seems distracted, and a little distraction is exactly what I need." So somehow Kaine is able to see the memory that's being projected by Spider-Man. So that distraction, and he basically ends up being able to pop in one. He goes, your emotions are like psychic knives. Somehow these clones are connected. It's not identified as clones just yet, but we know just from our research here and from finding out who these characters are, they're a clone of Spider-Man, of Peter. So somehow they're meant to psychically connected. This makes Kaine nervous. He runs off, and Spider-Man goes, "Gone." But what was he saying about my feelings causing him pain? How could that possibly? Who is he? And who is that Morlun that sent him after me? And we hear Kaine speak, "I feel as if my conscience has been turned inside out. What did the spider do to me? How did he do it? And I failed miserably, and the Father will not be pleased." Then we see, "Good news, ladies. Look who I found a couple blocks away," which is Peter in the street clothes again. So they found him, and this is where we see MJ finally just go off on Aunt Anna and just make her get out of the house, basically. Then we're back at, I would assume, the Sims building, and we have the interaction with Kaine, and he goes, "He is the totem, after all. While your disappointment, I'll make it right, Father. Will you?" And Morlun goes, "I need to feed, Kaine. The man rat wasn't enough, and the average human that wouldn't sustain me for more than just a few hours. I'll find better prey for you to consume. You most certainly will." This is where Morlun basically grabs Kaine and absorbs his body. So, and he goes, "An unfortunate turn of events, but hardly a disastrous loss after all. I can easily grow another, and then I personally will attend to Spider-Man. That is issue number 1. Okay, guys, so I apologize if I'm not great. This is my first comic book review. I did want to kind of deep dive into those characters with you that I didn't know about. A lot of you may already know who these characters are, which is great. But yeah, I'm excited for the next issue to come out. I believe it comes out in October, and this is going to be a 4-part series. So I'm hoping Disney, Marvel gets their act together and does an animated series. It will do well, just like X-Men 97 did well, and they have 3 seasons, or they're working on the 3rd season, I should say. But yeah, guys, we'll keep going along with this as long as you guys want to. Let me know in the comments your thoughts. Was I hitting the mark on some of this? What's your opinions about what I said? The deep dives on the characters that I didn't know. Can you tell me more about them, or something I missed or misunderstood? Just let me know in the comments, and we'll catch you on the next one. Don't forget to unleash your geek and let your fandom shine. Have a good one.